Alright. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This week we're going to talk about the 10 weirdest things that happen to Americans while studying abroad in Europe. Number one is people staring at you for prolonged periods of time. So I'm not talking about like the quick little glances or maybe a couple seconds. People will stare at you for a minute. One of the worst places to be stared at, in Spain at least, is the subway, because the subway's underground and it's in tunnels that are dark and the windows are kind of reflective. And so you could be standing by someone that's the same direction, looking straight forward, and they, instead of looking at you this way, they could be staring at you directly in the mirror and back at you. And so it's like a sneaky way of doing it. And I've asked some Spaniards around town, what's the deal with the staring thing? And they said that it's probably because I'm more white than they are. Even though we all kind of identify as white or Caucasian, my skin is like 10 times whiter than theirs. And so I guess I just stand out amongst the sea of tan because I can't get one. I've actually been asked before, Parker, why can't you get a tan? I'm like, I don't know, that's just my genetics. So, number two, you start getting used to Celsius, which for me is super cool because the whole world uses Celsius and for some reason America's behind and we use Fahrenheit for whatever reason. And although I prefer Fahrenheit, Celsius does make more sense to have 0 being the freezing point and 100 being the boiling point instead of 32 and 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Now when people say like, oh, it'll be like 25, 26 today, I'm like, wow, like I really need to wear shorts and a t-shirt. But when you say stuff like that to Americans, at least, to say it's 27 degrees is freezing cold. Number three, so this one's kind of awkward and I don't really like how it happens, but people may want to talk to you just because you're American. It never fails that if we meet a new person and then they ask us where we're from, if we say where we're from, they always are like, oh, cool, cool. And then when it comes to me saying where I'm from, it always gets a bigger reaction. Like, oh, you're from America? Like, oh my gosh, like where are you from? Is it so cool? Have you been to New York? And all these questions. And it's like, I'm the most interesting one at first. And I don't like saying that out loud because it sounds terrible to say. But it's true, like it never fails that people will immediately find me the most interesting to talk to at first. And then they realize that, you know, just because I'm American doesn't make me like a celebrity star, crazy, awesome, fun, cool, hilarious person. I'm just normal like everyone else. Number four, going out to a club or to a bar before 1 a.m. is really weird. So back in the States, we usually go out earlier during the night, and if you drink, you'll pre-game at someone's house or something, and then you'll go to the bar or the club, and then usually, at least in my town, I've heard in other people's towns, the bar closes at like 2 or 3, usually 2 o'clock in the morning, but here, the bars and clubs don't close until 6 a.m., and so because it's Spain, because it's Europe and things happen usually later, people don't go out until at least 1 o'clock. Number five, you start adopting British slang and British word choices. So, for instance, it's no longer weird to hear people say like, hey, can you put this in the rubbish bin? Hey man, I'm about to go to the toilet. Or when people invite you to go to pre's, that you don't have to wonder like, pre-what? It's just pre-gaming or pre-drinks. Number six, so if you're like me and you're studying in a country that doesn't speak English primarily or whatever your native language is, you'll notice that sometimes the foreign language's words will pop into your head quicker than your native language's words will. So for instance, you could be like this. Hey guys, do you want to go see that new movie? That's it. Number seven, so because my name is not a typical name on this side of the world, people usually forget how to say it, or they'll call me a completely different name. So for instance, whenever I tell people my name at first, I always say it like Parker, but because the R's don't really exist that way in Spanish or in other languages, it's kind of confusing. So I end up just having to say Parker. And if that still doesn't make sense because that's not a normal name here, I say like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker, and then all of a sudden it makes so much sense. But because I say that, they forget the Parker part sometimes later on, and they'll call me Peter, and it's just like this endless cycle. And then sometimes my teachers call me Ryan because on the roll sheet it says Middleton Parker Ryan, and they think that Ryan's my first name. And then for the British people, they call me Paka, but when they do mimic me, they still don't say it correctly. They say Parker with like a really nasally like voice, but I guess I sound like that way to them. But yeah. Number 8. Yes. Number 8, people will always know that you're not from here, generally. So in my case, they usually mistake me for English or German, but for the English people and the Germans, they definitely know I'm not from their country. Not only because I don't speak the way they do, but because I don't present myself the way they do, or I don't look the way they do. And I've asked them, you know, what is it about me that doesn't scream European? What screams American? And apparently it's my mouth. So I smile frequently, and I didn't realize that was that different because Europeans smile too, but apparently I smile with my teeth way more than normal, and my teeth are super straight and super white, and so that screams American. Number 9, you learn how that sticking out like a sore thumb is not a big deal. In Spain at least, because I stick out really bad here. I don't look like I'm straight out of the 90s. I don't wear denim on denim. I don't wear leather on leather. I don't have white Adidas shoes. I am not super tan, but none of this matters, and it's not a big deal. And finally, number 10, your social media / American bubble pops dramatically. So while being over here, not only did I learn that the world is way bigger than I'd expected, and that there are so many people on this earth, but also that there is such a weird culture in the US right now with social media, where everything is so meticulous, to the fact where people are using like 2 editing apps to put a photo on Instagram. And when I talk about this, I am also talking to myself because I'm just as guilty of this. But when it comes to things like Instagram or Facebook or Tumblr or any type of, or Twitter, whatever, everything is so meticulous, and where when you're gonna post something on Instagram, you have to have a clever caption, or you will plan at the time that you're gonna post this photo so that it has the highest amount of likes possible. Or when you're posing with a bunch of your friends, I know girls that will tickle each other's sides so that they all have the perfect laughing photo together. Or you will post pictures for captions that you thought of 2 weeks ago. Or you will follow everyone on your Facebook feed on Instagram, so that they will see that you follow them, and they'll probably follow you back. And then within 24 hours after you've gotten in all those hundreds of new followers, you will go back and delete all of those followers that you just followed. And so that your follower to follow ratio is even higher. And that the follower to follow ratio is even a thing. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, the follower to following ratio is when your followers are higher than the people that you follow, because it symbolizes that you don't care about you don't care to follow people as much as they care to follow you. So if you have 1,000 followers but you only follow like 600 people, that's a good ratio, because that's like 2/3 basically. So my camera died, so that's why I have to switch to my iPhone. But basically what I was saying is that when you follow somebody and you see they have a good following and follower ratio, that is like a good signal that they're really cool, because the people that have chosen to follow them is higher than the people that they're choosing to follow. And it's sick almost. In my past, I've looked at people's profiles and I've seen, oh, they follow 500 people, but they only have 200 followers. Like, something's wrong with that picture. Like, that's weird. And to think that way is so awful, because they're people too. And I don't know, it's just a way, at least for me, it was a way to judge people and put them on the scale of cool to not cool. And it's such a weird, awful thing to think, but I've thought it before, and I know people think that way because I've hung out with people like that. And I think that's like a normal way to think in the US. I remember thinking, why do people in Europe not really have much of a strong social media presence? And so I remember talking to some of my friends here this semester and explaining some of these things, and they said to me, you know, it's almost like if in America, if you don't post about an event, is it like it even happened? And when they said that, that was like the truest thing I'd ever heard. And it was so true that if I don't post about an event that I went to, how am I gonna let people know that I went? How am I going to keep the image that I want to uphold if I don't post about every single little thing that I'm doing? Or if I don't post frequently, how am I going to maintain what I have? And this is such a sick thing that I feel like I've woken up out of. And I know people are like this too, and I don't know if they know that this is such a weird cycle, and I don't even know how we got into it. I don't even know where I'm going with this. All I know is that I was obsessed with social media and didn't even know it. And that I was obsessed with how I presented myself online. And although I still kind of am to a degree where I still want to have cool captions and I still want my pictures to look good, I realize now that I can't let it have such a hold on my life, and that I know other people are like this too because I was friends with them. And I know that I just want to say to them, I hope you'll recognize that social media and what people think about you is not such a big deal, and that what really matters is face-to-face, real life interactions and how people view you that way in their mind and not what they can see on a screen. Well, I guess I should end here. I hope that all that rambling made sense because this video is going to be too long. But I hope all this made sense, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.